Hi guys! So today we were going to talk about reading and vocabulary strategies and activities, but the weather had other ideas. So I'm going to post this lecture so you can watch it, and hopefully we can still go over the information even though we didn't actually have class today. And then on Monday we can take time to address any questions that you might have about the material. We'll also have some time on Monday for you to work on your projects, but since you have time today, we might not need as much time. So here we go. For our warm-up, we were going to do a book tour. So I believe I had mentioned this previously, very briefly. Essentially, the way that it works is you give the students a lot of books, enough for each person to have one in front of them. And then you start a timer, and each person gets 1 minute to look at the book before passing the book to the right. And then after the end of the activity, they have a chance to look again at the ones that they were interested in. So this is like a good quick way to preview books and get them thinking about what reading material is interesting to them. You can also talk about the strategies that they should use for deciding which book is good for them. So obviously the cover art is what a lot of people choose the book on, but also talking about how to use the excerpt or the piece of text on the back cover is very helpful. And having them also use, there's something called the 5-finger rule, which essentially means when they open the book to the first page, there should be between 1 and 5 new vocabulary words on that page for the book to be considered at the right level for them. If they know all the words, the book is too easy, and if they don't know more than 5, the book is too difficult. So that's another good quick way for them to figure out if a book is at the correct reading level for them, in any language, really. Okay, so we would have done the book tour just to see how that works, but you could also call it book speed dating if you wanted to, have some fun with it, and entertain your students. Okay. So we were going to look at the reading tasks that you currently use and essentially do the same thing that you did with the movie-based activities on Tuesday. So, if you do have a reading task that you are going to bring that you think is very useful, that your students have enjoyed, please feel free to send that to me and I will post it up to the website even though we did not have a chance to discuss them. So really this part of the lecture, it would have taken us 45 minutes, but we can't really share our ideas today. So you can talk with other people at the inn. If you need something to do today, you can take a look at some reading activities that you use and send them on to me if you would like to do so. So the first activity that I was going to talk about was active reading. So active reading is just a strategy that helps the students to engage with the text as they're reading it. And there are 6 basic things that an active reader should do. And they are to make predictions. So at a certain point in the text, usually at the end of a chapter or at the end of a paragraph, the reader will stop and predict what is going to happen next. Okay. Active readers ask questions if they don't understand something that's happening with the plot, or they have run across a new vocabulary word, or they're not sure why a character might be doing a certain thing. That is asking questions. Visualizing the reading. As teachers of English, I'm going to imagine that most of you are pretty active readers, and if you are, you automatically start to create like a movie in your head of the reading. But that's not something that comes naturally to people who don't read as often. So if you have students who don't read much, it might take practice for them to begin visualizing what they read. So you might have them draw pictures of what they think is happening, or draw a picture of what they believe the character might be seeing in their mind. That's visualization. Connect the text to life. So making a connection between something that has happened in the book and something that is within their own personal knowledge. So, for example, maybe the main character in the book has a best friend who is a joker, likes to tell jokes, and maybe their best friend likes to tell jokes. That would be a connection, making a connection from their life to the book. The next one, monitoring understanding and clarifying meaning, is just to check that they understand what's really happening in the text at that moment. So if there's something they're not sure about, they can check. This is similar to asking questions, but the questions can be much broader in scope. They can ask questions about a lot of things. This particular bullet is just talking about making sure they understand what's happening. And then summarizing is another strategy, being sure they're able to pull out the main ideas from a text and make the text a little bit more concise and shorter. So we were going to do a parking lot activity. Parking lot is just an idea that has the students place Post-its onto a piece of paper. So the parking lot activity that we were going to use, this was the poster that you were going to be looking at, and I was going to give each person a small Post-it note, and we were going to read a selection, and I was going to ask you to make one prediction, question, visualization, connection, monitoring, or a summary as you were reading. And then you would each come up to this poster and place your Post-it note in the box where it belongs. So if you asked a question, you would put it in the question box. If you made a prediction, you would put it in the prediction box, etc. This is a good thing for teachers and also for the readers. Oops. Because afterward, if you have them also write their name on the Post-it, you can go through and see what kinds of things your students are really thinking about as they're reading the text. And it's a good way to check for understanding. If they've come up with questions, you can take the time to answer them, either one-on-one or all together as a class, or you can take the questions that they've generated and make them the warm-up for the next day, or you could put them onto a quiz after you've talked about them. But I think that for me, the ones that really get the students thinking about the text on a deeper level tend to be the connections, where they're really taking the text and relating it to their own life. But all of these skills are skills that good readers have, and they have to be worked on if the student is not someone who likes to read in general. But it's kind of fun to do this, and they think about the different ways they can relate to the text, and it's good practice. Okay, so if you have questions about this poster and how you would use it, we can talk about it on Monday. The next activity is to have them make a vocabulary bookmark while they're reading, and also after they read. They would use this during both phases. And basically, students should be thinking about the reading before they read it, while they read it, and after they read it. And they do different things at all of those times, right? So this vocabulary bookmark would be for while they're reading and after they read. If you have them make their own bookmarks, sometimes it gives them a little bit more ownership in the reading activity. And on the back side of the bookmark, they can make a list of the new words that they find while they're reading. And if they put a page number next to the word, they can come back to it later and see if they can maybe figure it out from context. And then they can transfer that to a vocabulary ring or a notebook after they're finished reading. And it's important, I think, to stress that students should not stop while they're reading to look up a word. What I usually tell my students is keep going because it slows you down time-wise. And if at the end of a paragraph or a chapter or a section you cannot understand the main idea, then that word might have been important enough to have to look up, right? But if you do understand the main idea, that might not be an important word for this particular reading, right? The bookmarks are just a way for them to keep track of the words they find as they read without taking the time to interrupt their reading to look the word up in a dictionary, right? They can come back to it and do it later, okay? So this is what it looks like. You could just let them have some fun decorating the front, and then on the back you can see they write the vocabulary word and the page number that they found it on. So that's it, pretty simple. As a follow-up, you can have them make vocabulary rings. I find that it's helpful to sort the words by color, so making nouns blue, adjectives yellow, adverbs green, verbs pink. It's kind of like a mini personal dictionary, but it's more fun just because of the way it's set up. You put the word plus the part of speech on the front, and a definition plus an example sentence and a picture on the back, and then you single hole punch the cards and put them on a binder ring. It looks like this, and you'll see that the word and the part of speech are on the front, and the definition plus an example sentence is on the back. And here you can see how all the nouns are blue, the adjectives are yellow, the verbs are pink. You could use whatever colors you want though. And this is the binder ring. You can find these pretty much at any office supply store. Here in the US, Staples carries them. I don't know what kind of store you have for that sort of stuff in Brazil, but I'm sure you can find them. You could alternatively, if you can't find the binder rings or that seems like too much work, you can also have students make a little vocabulary notebook that they use just for vocabulary. I usually find that it's helpful to organize it like a dictionary and leave like 3 pages for each letter, but Q, Z, you don't need 3 pages. And again, you'd write the word, the part of speech, the definition, an example sentence, and if you want to add a picture or a translation, there's space to do that too. And that's what it would look like, the vocabulary notebook. The third activity is word walls, which isn't really necessarily an activity, it's just a strategy to use. I know a lot of you say that you like to have stuff on your walls and you wish you had more things. Word walls are a good way to kind of put stuff up on the walls, but also it's a good way to give your students visual access to those new words that they might be learning. Sometimes it's hard to recall them, but if they can quickly look over to the wall and scan for it, they might be able to put it into their utterance, their sentence. And if they use it enough this way, then they won't need the word wall. But it can be organized a lot of ways. Sometimes it's organized by content, so you might organize it around travel words, money words, people words, and then place them underneath the topic heading. So here you see all the words relating to civics are underneath civics. This should be in alphabetical order, but this teacher didn't do that. You can also organize them strictly alphabetically, so not worrying about theme or unit. You just put them in alphabetical order, A, B, C, D, etc. You can also organize them by word part, and I think this is really helpful, especially if you want to try to expand your students' word recognition skills. So if you group the words by prefix or suffix or root, it can be very helpful. So here you see this tree. The trunk is ER, so everything that has the suffix ER, which means more, and then the teacher has placed the words up on the tree. Not a great example just because the students cannot easily see all the words. You see how these are covered up here? I like the tree concept, but in practice, this really isn't going to work because your students can't see all the words at the same time. So I personally would put this card up at the top and then place the words underneath. You can also group them by, root word, which is great if you're trying to get them to pick up the meanings of words that they haven't, that they might be seeing for the first time. They can use what they already know to try to figure out the meaning.